"You were never supposed to find us." Danielle Brooks whispered the words beneath the white emergency room lights, and for the first time in nearly 8 years, Adrian Cole forgot how to breathe. Rain hammered the hospital windows behind him, turning Chicago into a blur of silver streets and red taillights. He still held the unsigned donation agreement, in one hand its thick paper bent beneath. Fingers that had negotiated billion-dollar deals without trembling. Across the crowded waiting room, Danielle stood with a little girl pressed against her chest. Nearly 8 years had changed her. Her dark curls were shorter now, her face thinner, and the expensive dresses she once wore had been replaced by a faded navy sweater and rain-soaked jeans. But Adrian knew her instantly. He knew the slight lift of her chin when she was frightened and refused to show it. He knew the way her left hand closed around her right wrist when she was hiding something. Once he had believed he knew everything about her. Then she had disappeared before sunrise, leaving behind a wedding ring, divorce papers, and enough evidence to make him believe their marriage had been a lie. Now she was standing less than 20 feet away, staring at him as though the past had finally found the address she had spent years hiding. The child in her arms coughed softly. Danielle turned at once, all her fear redirected into tenderness. "Easy, Lily," she murmured. "Slow breaths. I'm right here." A nurse hurried over with a clipboard and asked Danielle to confirm her relationship to the patient. "I'm her mother," she answered. The words should not have mattered to Adrian. Danielle had left him almost 8 years ago. She had built another life. She had every right to become a mother. But then the girl lifted her face. She looked about 7 with warm brown skin, dark curls gathered loosely behind her head, and gray eyes so pale they seemed almost silver beneath the fluorescent lights. Adrian froze. He had seen those eyes in only one other person, his mother, whose portrait still hung above the fireplace at the Cole estate. The resemblance struck him with the force of a truth arriving before reason could stop it. Danielle saw the recognition spread across his face. Her arms tightened around Lily. Adrian crossed the waiting room slowly, his polished shoes leaving dark marks on the tile. Conversations faded around them, not because anyone knew who he was, but because something in his stillness made strangers instinctively move aside. "How old is she?" he asked. Danielle's eyes remained steady, though her voice did not. "This is not the place." How old? Lily looked between them, confused but curious. Danielle lowered her gaze for one brief second. It was enough. Adrian remembered the date she had vanished. He remembered the months before it, the quiet mornings, the plans they had made, and the future he had believed she destroyed, without explanation. 7 years old. Perhaps a little more. The calculation formed in his mind cold and exact. "Danielle," he said, and her name sounded like an accusation and a prayer at once. She took one step back. "Please, Adrian, not here." Then Lily touched her mother's cheek and asked the question that shattered the last certainty he had left. "Mom, is that the man from the photograph?" Lily's question hung between them, innocent and devastating. Danielle closed her eyes for half a second, as though she had spent years preparing for this moment, and still had no defense against it. Adrian looked from the child to the woman who had once known every unguarded part of him. "What photograph?" he asked. Lily opened her mouth, but Danielle gently touched her shoulder. "Sweetheart, the nurse is waiting for us." Her voice was calm, yet Adrian heard the strain beneath it. A hospital attendant appeared with a wheelchair, and Danielle helped Lily sit, before following her toward the treatment doors. Adrian took one step after them. Danielle turned. "Do not follow us." Nearly 8 years earlier, she had given him the same command in a letter left on their kitchen table. He had awakened before dawn, to a house that felt strangely hollow. Her side of the bed was cold. The closet door stood open and half her clothes were gone. Downstairs, beside a cup of coffee she had made but never touched, lay her wedding ring and a sealed envelope bearing his name. Adrian had read the letter once. Then again. Then so many times the folds began to tear. Danielle wrote that their marriage had become impossible, that she needed a life beyond the Cole family, and that searching for her would only make matters worse. There had been no apology and no promise to return. By noon, Raymond Cole had arrived. Adrian's uncle was also Cole International's powerful chief financial officer, with direct control over internal reporting, security budgets, and the first review of suspected fraud. He carried documents that turned heartbreak into humiliation. Bank records showed payments from Danielle's private account to a company connected to one of Adrian's business rivals. Security reports placed her near a hotel where confidential meetings had allegedly occurred. A signed statement suggested she had shared information about Cole International in exchange for money and protection. Every page carried her name. Every date fit. Every detail appeared undeniable. Adrian had wanted to reject it all. He had demanded explanations from employees, attorneys, and investigators. He had called Danielle until her number stopped working. He had driven to her sister's old apartment in Milwaukee, only to find it empty. He had searched airports, hotels, and public records across 4 states. Nothing. Raymond had stood beside him through all of it, offering quiet sympathy and the same bitter warning. Some people love what your name can give. Them, Adrian. They do not love you. Eventually, Adrian stopped searching. He told himself anger was cleaner than grief. He buried himself in work, expanded the company, and became the controlled, distant man the business world respected. Friends encouraged him to move on. His board expected him to remarry. He did neither. He kept Danielle's ring locked in the bottom drawer of his desk beside the letter he claimed he no longer remembered. Now, under the hospital's unforgiving lights, the past no longer looked settled. It looked arranged. Adrian watched the treatment doors close behind Danielle and Lily. Nathan Reed, his security chief, approached from the elevator carrying the revised donation documents. "Everything all right?" Nathan asked. Adrian did not answer immediately. His eyes remained fixed on the doors. "Find out where Danielle Brooks has been since she left." "He was left, Hafferly Brooks," said quietly. "And Nathan, do not contact Raymond." Nathan studied him, recognizing the weight behind the order. "What am I looking for?" Adrian finally turned his face composed again, though something dangerous had awakened beneath the calm. The first lie. The treatment doors opened 40 minutes later, and Danielle stepped into the waiting room with Lily walking beside her, one small hand wrapped around her mother's fingers. The color had returned to the girl's face, but fatigue softened her gray eyes. Adrian rose from the chair near the windows. He had not moved since Nathan left. Danielle noticed him immediately, and disappointment crossed her face before she could hide it. "I asked you not to wait." Adrian glanced at Lily. "Is she all right? The doctor says the medicine helped. She needs rest." Danielle guided the child toward the elevator, but Adrian moved into their path without touching either of them. "How old is she?" Danielle's shoulders tightened. "Adrian, I am asking one question, and I am telling you this is not the place." Lily looked up at him with open curiosity. "I am 7, she said. My birthday was in October." The answer entered, Adrian's mind like a key turning inside a locked room. Danielle had disappeared in February, nearly 8 years earlier. It was January now. Lily had turned 7 3 months ago. The dates fit with painful precision. He remembered that final winter with painful clarity. She had been tired more often. She had stopped drinking coffee. One morning he had found her standing in the bathroom with tears in her eyes, but she had smiled and blamed a headache. Adrian looked at Danielle. "October." She placed a protective hand on Lily's shoulder. "Do not do this in front of her. Then tell me where we can do it." Her expression hardened. "There is nothing to discuss. She has my mother's eyes." Danielle went still. Lily shifted closer to her. Adrian lowered his voice. "She was born 7 months after you left. You kept photographs of me. She recognized my face. Tell me I am wrong." Danielle's silence answered more than words could have. The elevator arrived with a soft chime, but neither of them moved. "I want a paternity test," Adrian said. Danielle stared at him as if he had confirmed something she had feared for years. "You do not get to appear after 8 years and demand pieces of our lives because the dates make you uncomfortable." "I did not disappear." "No," she said quietly. "You only believe the worst thing anyone told you about me." The sentence landed. Harder than anger. Adrian felt the old evidence rise in his memory. Every signature, every transaction, every report Raymond had placed before him. "You left me with proof. I left because it was the only way I knew to protect you." Lily looked between them, confused by the sudden silence. Danielle knelt and adjusted the collar of her coat. "Sweetheart, please wait by the elevator. I will be right there." Lily obeyed, but not before studying Adrian once more. When she was several feet away, Danielle faced him. "Do not contact her school. Do not send people to our apartment. Do not turn her life into an investigation." Adrian's eyes narrowed. "How did you know I would investigate?" A shadow passed through her expression. "Because that is what the Cole family does when it cannot control something." She turned to leave, but Adrian caught one final detail. A thin silver chain had slipped from beneath her sweater. Hanging from it was a small silver locket engraved with the date of their courthouse wedding. Danielle followed his gaze and quickly closed her hand around it. For one unguarded second, fear replaced anger. Then the elevator doors opened. Lily stepped inside and asked Mom, should I put the photograph back in the blue box? When we get home, Danielle froze. Adrian heard every word. The doors closed between them, leaving him alone with one certainty he could no longer deny. Danielle had not erased him from Lily's life, and whatever truth she was protecting had been hidden inside that blue box. Danielle waited until the apartment door clicked shut before allowing her composure to break. She leaned against the faded wood, closed her eyes, and listened to Lily place her shoes neatly beside the heater. Their home occupied the third floor of an old brick building in Evanston, 12 miles north of downtown Chicago. It was small, warm, and carefully ordinary. Nothing inside suggested that Danielle had once lived behind iron gates or attended charity dinners beneath crystal chandeliers. Lily carried her medicine toward the kitchen while Danielle checked the window overlooking the narrow street. A dark sedan sat beneath a bare maple tree across the road. Her pulse quickened, but when a man emerged carrying grocery bags, she released the breath she had been holding. "Mom, where's the photograph?" Lily asked. Danielle turned too quickly. "Which photograph?" "The one from the blue box." "The man from the hospital." Danielle crossed the living room, but Lily had already pulled a wooden box from the lowest shelf of the bookcase. Before Danielle could reach her, the lid slipped free. Photographs, envelopes, and folded newspaper clippings scattered across the rug. Lily knelt to gather them. There were pictures from a life Danielle had never described in full: Adrian laughing beside Lake Michigan, Adrian wearing a gray suit. At their courthouse wedding, Adrian standing in the kitchen with flour on his sleeve after attempting to bake her birthday cake. Beneath them lay 8 years of articles about Cole International, each one carefully dated. Promotions, donations, awards. Proof that Danielle had watched from a distance, even when she had forbidden herself from returning. "You said he was someone you used to know," Lily whispered. Danielle lowered herself beside her. "He was. Did you love him?" The question was too gentle to avoid. Danielle touched the edge of their wedding photograph. "Very much." A small brass key slid from between 2 envelopes and struck the floor. Danielle's expression changed. She had hidden that key beneath the false lining of the box where Lily could never have found it by accident. She examined the lining and saw that one corner had been lifted. Someone had opened it. Someone had searched, carefully enough to put everything back, but not carefully enough to fool her. Then, Lily picked up a photograph Danielle had never seen. It showed the entrance of their apartment building on a clear afternoon. Danielle stood near the steps carrying 2 paper grocery bags. 20 feet behind her, partly hidden beside a parked car, was Raymond Cole. The date printed in the lower corner was 3 weeks earlier. Danielle's hands went cold. Raymond had not merely found her. He had been close enough to photograph her home. Lily looked at the older man in the background. "Who is that?" Danielle took the picture from her and forced her voice to remain calm. "Someone who should not know where we live." Across the city, Adrian stood in his office as Nathan Reed placed a thin folder on the mahogany desk. "I found something," Nathan said. Danielle changed her name twice, but someone accessed one of her sealed address records 6 months ago. Adrian opened the folder. "Who?" Nathan hesitated. "A private investigator paid through a company controlled by Raymond." Adrian's face became perfectly still. At that exact moment, his private phone rang. Only 4 people had the number. The screen displayed an unfamiliar local call. He answered without speaking. For several seconds, he heard only Danielle's breathing. Then her voice came through, quiet and stripped of every defense she had shown at the hospital. "Adrian, he found us." Adrian was already reaching for his coat when he asked, "Where are you now?" Danielle looked toward Lily, who sat at the kitchen table coloring beneath the yellow light. "At the apartment. Leave through the back entrance. Take only what you can carry. Nathan will meet you in 10 minutes. Danielle's grip tightened around the phone. No security team. No marked cars. Raymond notices patterns. Adrian heard the experience beneath her fear, and understood that this was not the first time she had prepared to disappear. "Then tell me where you trust." She looked down at the brass key in her palm. "Union Station. The North Waiting Room, 30 minutes. The call ended before he could answer. Adrian turned to Nathan. "Use your personal car. No company phones, no Cole accounts, and no one reports this to Raymond." Nathan nodded once. "What changed?" Adrian placed the surveillance photograph on the desk. He stopped watching the past. He started watching my daughter. The words came naturally, but their meaning struck him only after they were spoken. His daughter. Across town, Danielle removed the brass key and the surveillance photograph from the blue box. She hid the box and the remaining photographs beneath a loose floorboard, keeping only the courthouse wedding picture, which she folded inside her coat pocket. Then she packed Lily's medicine, 2 changes of clothes, and the surveillance photograph into a canvas bag before leading Lily down the rear staircase. Snow had begun to mix with the rain, whitening the edges of the alley. Lily did not complain. She had learned too young that when her mother spoke softly and moved quickly, questions could wait. Union Station glowed like a cathedral beneath its high stone ceiling. Travelers crossed the polished floor with rolling suitcases and paper coffee cups, unaware that Danielle was measuring every face and every reflection. Adrian saw her near a row of wooden benches. Lily slept with her head against Danielle's shoulder, wrapped in a red coat that looked one size too large. For a moment, he did not approach. He simply watched Danielle hold the child between herself and the crowd, as if her body had been the only wall Lily had ever needed. Nathan arrived from the opposite entrance and gave a discreet nod. Danielle stood. "The key belongs to a safe deposit box," she said without greeting. "I opened it shortly after I left Chicago under another name." Adrian looked at the brass key. "What is inside proof that the financial records were manufactured?" "Copies of messages, account transfers, and instructions Raymond never knew I kept." Nathan's expression sharpened. "Why wait this long?" Danielle looked at Lily before answering. "Because Raymond controlled the internal audit, the company's security budget, and the investigators who first reviewed the missing money. Each time I tried to move a document, someone found the address I had used. Evidence was useless. If exposing it also exposed my child." Adrian absorbed the accusation without defending himself. Danielle continued. 3 weeks ago, I received an unsigned note. It said the box had been found. I thought it was meant to scare me. Then Lily found the photograph. "Why call me now?" Adrian asked. Her eyes met his. "Because Raymond only came this close after you saw us." The truth settled heavily between them. Adrian's return had not rescued Danielle from hiding. It had exposed her. Nathan checked the station clock. "The bank closes in 40 minutes. Danielle handed Adrian the key, but did not release it when his fingers touched the metal. While Nathan watched the exits, Danielle called Maya Alvarez, a pediatric nurse and longtime colleague from the Community Children's Center. Maya had helped manage Lily's condition for years and was one of the few people Danielle trusted completely. When the call ended, Danielle looked back at Adrian. "There is something else inside. An envelope with your name on it." Adrian studied her face. "What does it say?" Danielle finally let go. "What I was too afraid to tell you before I left." The bank's brass clock showed 22 minutes before closing, when Danielle led Adrian and Nathan through the marble lobby. Lily remained with Maya in a nearby cafe. Danielle checked every entrance twice and gave Maya a private emergency phrase that would appear in any genuine change of plans. At the private vault desk, she presented identification under the name Danielle Mercer. The clerk compared her face to an 8-year-old file, then escorted them through a steel door into a narrow viewing room. Danielle placed the brass key beside a second key held by the clerk. The lock opened with a quiet click. Inside the box rested 3 folders of authenticated financial copies, the original digital recorder and a cream envelope marked for Adrian in Danielle's handwriting. His name had faded slightly as though the ink had been waiting longer than either of them could bear. Nathan examined the folders first. They contained authenticated copies of wire transfers, internal emails and dates that contradicted the records Raymond had shown Adrian years earlier. One document carried Danielle's signature, but the transaction had been authorized 2 days after she had left Chicago. Another listed a meeting at a hotel where security footage proved she had never entered. Nathan looked up. These were built carefully. Someone expected every document to be accepted without a second review. Using a personal encrypted device, Nathan sent 5 verified pages to Cole International's outside counsel and 2 independent board members. He asked them to remain available without alerting Raymond. Adrian said nothing. He was staring at the envelope. Danielle folded her arms tightly across her chest. "I wrote it the night before I left. Why did you keep it?" "Because sending it would have brought you after me." Adrian broke the seal. The first lines were simple. She told him she loved him. She told him she was pregnant. Then the words became harder. Danielle had discovered that Raymond was moving company funds through shell businesses and arranging for Adrian to be removed from leadership during a vulnerable transition. When Raymond learned she had copied the records, he confronted her with photographs, schedules, and private details that proved how closely Adrian was being watched. He promised that if she warned her husband or refused to disappear, he would use the forged records to trigger a criminal inquiry, remove Adrian from leadership, and ensure neither of them would be allowed to raise the child she carried. Danielle had not believed him until he showed her a document already prepared in her name, one that would make her appear responsible for the missing money, along with a second file designed to implicate Adrian. Raymond offered one path: leave before sunrise, accept the role of traitor, and never contact Adrian again. The last paragraph blurred before Adrian's eyes. "I know you will hate me," Danielle had written. "That is what he wants, and it is what I need. Hatred is the only wall strong enough to stop you from following me. Someday our child may ask why her father was not there. I will tell her that you were loved enough to be protected even if you never knew it." Adrian lowered the letter. The room had become unbearably quiet. 8 years of anger rearranged themselves into something heavier. Every unanswered call had been a warning Danielle could not risk returning. Every mile between them had been chosen to keep him from becoming Raymond's next target. "You knew about Lily before you left," he said. Danielle nodded. "I found out 3 days earlier. And you carried this alone." "I carried what I had to." Adrian looked at the digital recorder. Danielle reached for it, but her hand stopped halfway. "There is one recording," she said. "Raymond's voice is on it." Nathan pressed the power button. Static filled the room, followed by Raymond speaking with calm certainty. "By morning, Adrian will believe exactly what I give him to believe." Adrian closed his eyes. When he opened them again, the last defense he had built around his uncle was gone. Then the recorder continued, and Raymond said one more sentence Danielle had never heard clearly before. "If she ever comes back, the child becomes the leverage." The final sentence on the recording had barely faded when Danielle's phone began to vibrate against the table. She looked at the screen and saw Maya's name. "Where is Lily?" Danielle asked before the call had fully connected. The answer drained the color from her face. Maya had received a message that appeared to come from Danielle's number, instructing her to take Lily through the station's east entrance, because the bank meeting had ended early. The message contained their private emergency phrase. Nathan checked Danielle's phone and found an unauthorized connection dating from the hospital visit. Raymond had been monitoring the device and had heard her call to Maya. A man wearing a Cole International security badge had been waiting beside a black sedan. He knew Lily's name, her medication schedule, the name of the children's center, and a detail from that morning's hospital visit. Maya had tried to call Danielle for confirmation, but the call had gone directly to a recorded greeting. Believing an urgent security situation was underway, she followed the instructions and immediately called again when the sedan left. Danielle ended the call and turned toward Adrian. "Raymond has her." Adrian's expression remained controlled, but his hand crushed the edge of the letter. Nathan was already calling the station security office. "There are cameras at every entrance. We will find the vehicle." Danielle gathered the recorder and the documents into her canvas bag. "He does not want Lily. He wants the evidence." "Then we give him copies," Adrian said. "We do not give him anything until my daughter is safe." "Our daughter," Adrian replied quietly. Danielle looked at him, and for 1 second the words seemed to reach a place neither anger nor fear had touched. Then her phone lit again with a message from an unknown number. "Bring the original records to the old Cole Foundation building. Come alone. No police." Danielle read it once and slipped the phone into her pocket. "He chose that building because it is empty after 6. Adrian moved between her and the door. "You are not going alone. If Raymond sees your people, he will leave with Lily. And if you walk in without protection, he controls every decision." Danielle met his eyes. "He controlled my decisions for 8 years. Not tonight." Nathan returned from the hallway. The east entrance camera shows Lily entering the sedan willingly. The badge was counterfeit, but the license plate belongs to a Cole Foundation vehicle. It is registered to the old building. Danielle took the silver locket from beneath her sweater and held it in her palm. "I need 10 minutes before either of you follows." Adrian studied her. "Why 10? "Because Raymond believes I still think like the frightened woman who left Chicago. Let him keep believing that." She walked out before Adrian could stop her. 10 minutes later, Nathan drove toward the abandoned foundation offices while Adrian watched the traffic lights change with unbearable slowness. At the building entrance, the lobby appeared empty. Then Nathan pointed toward a security camera above the glass doors. Danielle's silver locket rested on the narrow ledge beneath it. Catching the streetlight, Adrian understood immediately. She had placed it where only someone reviewing the camera feed would notice. Beneath the locket was a folded parking receipt with 2 sentences written across the back. The bank folders are authenticated copies. 3 complete sets exist. Nathan looked at Adrian. She is leading him away from the real evidence. Adrian picked up the locket, the same keepsake Danielle had carried through 8 years of exile. No, he said. She is leading him toward the truth. Nathan checked his personal phone. Coal International's outside counsel and the 2 independent directors he had alerted at the bank were less than 5 minutes away. 2 additional board members were joining through the building's secure conference system. The advance warning had given them time to verify the first records without alerting Raymond. Adrian's phone rang. The caller identification showed Raymond Cole. Adrian answered. His uncle's voice arrived calm and familiar. You should have left the past buried. Adrian closed his hand around the locket. The past is not what should concern you now. Through the building's glass doors, a light turned on 3 floors above them, and Danielle's silhouette appeared briefly at the window before disappearing into the dark. Danielle stood inside the 3rd-floor conference room with the canvas bag resting on the polished table between her and Raymond Cole. Lily sat several feet away in a leather chair, frightened but unharmed, clutching the red sleeve of her coat. Raymond had given her a cup of water and spoken to her with the calm patience of a trusted relative, which made his deception feel even colder. Give me the original records, he said. Danielle kept her eyes on Lily. Let her walk downstairs first. Raymond smiled faintly. You still believe you are negotiating? No, Danielle replied. I am giving you one final opportunity to make a decent choice. His smile disappeared. For 8 years, Danielle had imagined this moment, with fear tightening her throat. Now the fear was still there, but it no longer controlled her voice. Raymond opened the canvas bag and removed the folders, the recorder, and the authenticated bank documents. He studied them quickly, assuming the bank seals meant they were originals. In fact, the folders contained one of 3 complete sets of certified copies. You should have stayed gone, he said. Adrian recovered. The company grew. Everyone survived. Danielle looked at Lily. A child grew up without her father. I lost my name, my home, and 8 years of my life. Do not call that survival as though you gave us a gift. Raymond gathered the documents into a neat stack. History belongs to the person who can prove it. Danielle's gaze shifted toward the dark conference screen mounted on the wall. Then, you should have checked whether the building was still connected to the coal network. The screen came to life. Raymond turned as the recorder's audio filled the room, followed by images of the transfers, false signatures, and internal messages Danielle had preserved. From the lobby, Nathan had uploaded every verified file and activated the secure presentation system. The conference room doors opened, and Adrian entered with Nathan outside counsel and the independent Coal International directors, who had already reviewed the first records. 2 additional board members appeared on the conference screen. Raymond stared at the growing audience. This is a family matter. Adrian walked past him and went directly to Lily. He knelt several feet from her, careful not to frighten her. Your mother asked me to come, he said gently. You are safe. Lily looked toward Danielle, who nodded. Only then did she leave the chair and take Adrian's offered hand. He led her to Nathan before facing his uncle. Raymond attempted to explain that every decision had protected the company during an unstable transition. He spoke about loyalty, reputation, and sacrifice. No one interrupted him until Danielle stepped beside the head of the table. You demanded my silence because you believed no one would trust a frightened woman over a respected man, she said. You were right for 8 years. Adrian pulled out the chair at the head of the table, the seat Raymond had expected him to occupy. Instead, he turned it toward Danielle. Then let the woman you silenced tell the truth. The room went completely still. Danielle sat beneath the white conference lights and described every forged document, every threat, and every year spent looking over her shoulder. When she finished, Adrian placed Danielle's original handwritten letter and the original recorder before the board. Under the company's emergency bylaws, the independent directors voted to suspend Raymond's authority immediately. Outside counsel confirmed that the evidence would be preserved and delivered to Federal investigators, while station security footage was already being provided to local authorities. Raymond looked around the table for support, but every face had turned away. Danielle did not smile. Justice did not return the year she had lost. It simply returned the voice he had taken from her. Building security, acting under the board's written order, escorted Raymond from the room to wait for the authorities. Lily slipped her hand into Danielle's. Adrian stood on her other side, close enough to protect them, but not close enough to claim what he had not yet earned. 3 weeks later, morning light rested across Danielle's small kitchen table as softly as forgiveness that had not yet been earned. Adrian sat across from Lily with a plate of pancakes between them, listening while she explained the rules of a board game he had already lost twice. He had arrived at 8 o'clock exactly, carrying no expensive gifts, no attorneys, and no expectation of being welcomed. Danielle had made that condition clear. If he wanted to know his daughter, he would begin where ordinary fathers began: breakfast, school pickups, forgotten lunchboxes, and promises kept when no one was watching. Adrian accepted every boundary without argument. An independent DNA test, arranged only after Danielle gave her consent, had confirmed that Adrian was Lily's father. The result gave him a responsibility, not permission, to ignore the life Danielle had built. In the days following Raymond's removal, a preliminary external audit verified the forged records, allowing Cole International to issue a public statement clearing Danielle's name while the broader legal investigation continued. Adrian established an independent review of every account Raymond had controlled. He used his own money to create a foundation supporting families forced into hiding by financial coercion and abuse of power, and pledged that any funds legally recovered after the investigation would later be added to it. He offered Danielle leadership of the foundation. She declined. "I spent 8 years building a life that belonged to me," she told him. "I will not trade it for another life built around your name." Adrian did not try to persuade her. He simply asked what support the Children's Center needed, and provided it anonymously, just as she requested. Lily learned the truth slowly, in language gentle enough for a 7-year-old heart. The DNA test had confirmed that Adrian was her father. He had not known she existed. Her mother had protected her through circumstances no child should have to carry. Lily listened, asked whether Adrian liked strawberry ice cream, and then invited him to her school reading day. That invitation meant more to him than every title he had ever received. After breakfast, Lily ran to her room to find the book she planned to read. Silence settled between Adrian and Danielle. The old wedding photograph stood on the shelf now, no longer hidden in the blue box, but it was not displayed as a promise. It was simply part of the truth. The silver locket rested outside, Danielle's sweater no longer concealed. Adrian placed her wedding ring, the one he had kept locked, in his desk for nearly 8 years on the table. "I kept this because part of me never believed our marriage was a lie." Danielle looked at the silver band, then at him. "What happened did not erase what was real." His voice lowered. "I spent years asking why you left. I should have asked what made you believe leaving was your only choice." Danielle's eyes shone, but her expression remained steady. "You believed the evidence because it protected your pride. Believing me would have required trust. I know. Knowing is not the same as changing. Then I will change where you can see it." He did not ask her to return. He did not ask for forgiveness. He only requested permission to attend Lily's reading day on Friday. Danielle glanced toward the hallway where their daughter was searching noisily through a stack of books. Then she took a third coffee cup from the cabinet and set it beside his plate. "Friday starts at 9, she said. Adrian nodded, understanding the gift hidden inside the ordinary words. Lily returned, holding a book against her chest, and smiled when she saw the 3 cups on the table. Nothing had been restored exactly as it was, because dignity does not ask the wounded to pretend they were never hurt. But a door had opened, not through power, possession, or grand promises, but through truth, patience, and the quiet courage to let another person choose. And that morning Adrian finally understood that love was not proven by holding on, it was proven by becoming safe enough for someone to stay.